While most CPAs focus on what happened last year, our friend Dan Mullen at GTG Tax Planning helps you plan for what's next. He's especially sharp with business owners and real estate investors, helping you legally minimize taxes while positioning yourself to look strong when it comes time to qualifying for financing. And because he understands both tax strategy and lending, he helps you make smarter financial decisions before they become expensive ones. Discover how you can look poor to the IRS and rich to the lender. Book a short discovery call today at gtgtax.com. That's gtgtax.com. Thinking about launching a podcast but overwhelmed by all the moving parts? At TurnKey Podcast Productions, we take the hassle out of podcasting so you can focus on the talk, not the tech. From concept to launch, guest booking to post-production, we handle everything. Need a strategy to grow your show and turn guests into clients? Yep, we do that too. DIY or done for you, we've got the solution that fits. Whether you're just getting started or ready to scale, TurnKey is your behind-the-scenes podcast team. TurnKey Podcast Productions. Your voice, your message, fully produced. Learn more at turnkeypodcast.com/contact. That's turnkeypodcast.com/contact.
Next on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
I want people to understand that in the urban inner cities or even suburban areas to appreciate the fact that no matter where you came from and whatever you're going through, even if it's some kid that's an adoptee, some kid that's in a foster home, some woman that's going through an abusive relationship, or some man that's going through divorce or whatever else, you can come back. You can come back from those streets. You can come back from incarceration. You just have to think like the gorilla and understand that there's somebody out there that's been in your shoes and has experienced what you're experiencing. And that's why I say trauma to triumph. If you look on the cover of the book, it shows a man with a big ball and his chains around his leg, and he's trying to climb up the hill. And when he gets up to the top of the hill, there's a light that comes on. And that's the thing. So I call myself the liberator. I'm not a motivator. I liberate your mind to the infinite possibilities of what it can achieve. So I just want to open their minds up to say, you don't have to buy my coaching, but read the book and realize I've been in your shoes. I know what it's like to go through things, and I know what it's like to avoid recidivism. So that's a big thing. People keep going back to the same struggle, and it's insanity.
7 countries have banned these two from traveling. The Nice Guys on Business. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community, welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest proves that where you start doesn't have to determine where you finish. Darius Ross went from homelessness and surviving some incredibly tough circumstances to helping close more than $1 billion in business deals. Now, along the way, he became a business broker, an M&A advisor, a commercial real estate pro, an entrepreneur, an author, and the creator of the TPS Blueprint, which stands for Timing, Precision, and Synchronicity, which we'll talk about today. If you're looking for a fluffy business advice episode, fucking don't listen to this episode, because this is not what we're here to do. We're here to talk details. We're here to talk getting you past the shit that you're going through right now. So please do not listen to this for fluffy business advice. But if you want real conversation on overcoming obstacles, scaling a business, and turning life's toughest lessons into your biggest advantages, you are in the right place. Darius Ross, welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
It is a pleasure to be here.
Happy to have you here. I'm excited to be able to chat with you. I was reading your backstory, and the more I was reading it, the more captured I was by your entire story. Now, you found entrepreneurship by accident, and most people are searching so hard to find what they want to do. How is it that it just found you, through all of the adversity that you've been through? How did entrepreneurship find you?
Bottom line of it was, growing up in the inner city of Chicago, I lost a job, and necessity pushed me forward, basically. And when you mentioned growing up in the inner city of Chicago, it was a gang violence, it was survival, it was resilience, and through that, creating a business career. So the bottom line of it was entrepreneurship found me because there was no choice. It's like, you got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to drink, and you either make something happen and or you perish. That's the bottom line.
So, what's something that you wish people would understand about entrepreneurship that they maybe struggle with daily? Because there's so many people that have these amazing gifts in the world, and they're just stuck in the getting ready process instead of the I'm doing it process. Action taking. The biggest challenge that I often have is I'm a podcast producer, so people come to us and they want to know everything about podcasting before they hit that fucking record button the first time, and I'm like, just hit record and just talk because that's the best way to do it. What is it about entrepreneurship that's that way for you? What do people struggle with daily?
Is this PG or can I go?
You've already heard me drop the F-bomb a couple of times. You
Yeah, I
go
want to
any
be clear.
direction you want to.
The bottom line of it is get out of your freaking head. I'll clean it up.
Okay.
You have to stop being your own worst enemy, because the bottom line of it is when you enter entrepreneurship, you're already outgunned and outmanned. So it's like taking a knife to a gunfight. No matter how much experience that you have, no matter how many times you've actually worked in corporate America, it will not prepare you for adapting and being resourceful to situations that you can't imagine that will happen. That handshake that you shook hands with somebody that you had a deal, that handshake is bullshit. The bottom line of it is that operation that you think is going to run smoothly when you're not there ain't going to happen. Those employees that are going to steal ain't going to happen. So the bottom line of it is you have to build a business around deep diving and realizing that you have to realize that at some point in time, you're going to be overextended and you're going to panic. So what do you do when you panic? That's my gorilla principle.
Do you think that when you have to succeed in order to eat, that alone can provide some pretty deep motivation?
I know. When you have to figure out what you're going to do when you're facing two other interesting situations. You're facing the fact that not only do you have to eat, but you have other people that are depending on you to eat. And there's nothing like a little mouth coming to you saying, I'm hungry. And you hear that same word about 25 times. You are going to do something very motivational. And or if you have a girlfriend or a husband that basically is saying to you that they're going to leave you, that's different motivation. But the biggest motivation of it is when you look around and you see that you go to the ATM machine and you try to get something out and nothing comes out. That's motivation.
So take me through a little bit of your early stages of your story. What shaped the situation that you're in, your journey, and then how did you find your way out of it? I know through necessity you found your way out of it, but how did you actually get there? What's your journey all about?
My journey began at 6 or 7 years old. My father was an interesting man. He had his philandering ways, but he was more interesting in the sense that he would actually provide me material, which is like the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Fortune, everything else. And he would constantly quiz me. But little did I know those quizzes were going to come in handy later on. So one of the first things that happened was 8th grade. I did not walk across the stage at 8th grade graduation, and I was a salutatorian because he couldn't pay the bill. So that was the first, as I say, shocker. The next shocker came in high school, and the same thing happened in high school. In junior year, I was basically told that I'm not going to be able to come back to school. This is a seminary because of the fact that, again, he couldn't pay the bill. So I discovered at that point in time, help's not coming. So all of a sudden you do what any industrial young person does in inner city. You get creative and you start figuring out how to hustle. And hustling is the motivation for you to figure out whatever method is necessary. So there's a term that says by any means necessary. You create by any means necessary because you have no choice. Once you get disappointed a few times, you realize you got to take matters into your own hands. Sometimes that takes you across the border to things that maybe are not necessarily the right way to do things, but you do what you got to do to make it happen.
There's a difference between doing things that aren't the right way and doing things that are not legal or not, in moral. So how do you, and in an area where you grew up, it was challenging. I mean, again, reading your story, I don't know how anyone finds their way to clarity or to doing things. I'm not saying textbook, but corporate white America, it does not necessarily have the greatest eye on someone that's from the part of Chicago that you're from, and that is challenged with just staying on the right side of the law. So how do you do the right thing when the wrong thing is so much easier to do?
I'll be honest with you. You're more than likely to do the wrong thing. I will not be one of those individuals that will candy coat the history. I crossed the line. I crossed the board and did things that were questionable and unethical. But the bottom line of it was that, you get to a point where you say to yourself, and mine was the concept of sitting in a cell and I'm there overnight and you're trying to figure out what's this going to lead to. And somebody's telling you in no uncertain terms what the situation is going to be. And I'll give you a short story, right?
Sure.
The story was I'm sitting there in this cell And I'm watching these guys on the other side of the room, and they're behind a curtain. And behind this curtain, there are men back there. And I asked the guy, I said, what are they doing? So he goes, well, they're testing the penises. I go, for what? He says, well, they're going to give them a test for, disease. Oh, no. So I started in the corner. I'm Catholic now. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Oh, God, come on, come through. So now, all of a sudden, I hear my name called. He says, Ross. So he says, you're free to go. But lo and behold, as I'm walking across the yard to give, because this is like tiers the way the county jail is set up. So they're tiers. So as I'm walking across, the guy up top says, hey, fresh fish is on now. Oh, no, I'm done. That was a moment of truth because I'm realizing I got a blessing and a lesson. The blessing was I got caught. The lesson was that I realized that at the end of the day, that wasn't for me. Okay. Very clearly. Because when you get caught doing something 1 too many times, and in my case, it was 3 times, that was your indication that it was not the thing you should be doing. But the mastery of that was there was always some angle that happened. Whereas when I got misdirected or misguided, there was a person or a system that was like, this isn't for you. So you got to turn around and change your ways. But again, it had to be a lesson. I had to get spanked. As I best say, sometimes you got to get spanked to basically get the idea. And some people just continue to do the same thing over and over again.
Well, you found your way back to the right side of the law, but that's not an easy. When it's as easy or easier to be on the wrong side, it's challenging to do that. How? What was the motivating factor? Now you did have. It sounds like you had at least one person along the way with each of these missteps that you had that helped put you back on a proper trajectory, but. Even so, sometimes, when somebody says to you, you got to go out there and get a job, and you're in a position where you might only be able to make minimum wage, but it's easier to make tens of thousands of dollars, whether it's selling drugs, doing anything illegal, or and on the wrong side of the law. How do you use that motivation to get to the right place? Because I still don't know how you found your way out of this bad trajectory.
I actually was a master of history, right? And in that mastery of history, I also was a mastery of military history. And in military history, there's something that was the guerrillas, right? And the guerrillas were able to overcome and succumb to everything. They handled things, they pivoted, they adjusted. So what I realized, there's no situation you learn in martial arts that you can't get out of. It's just a question of how disciplined are you going to be. So what happened for me was I realized there was something at the time that was called Westlaw. And Westlaw was a series of books and directives to give you an idea of what you can do within the law. So I started realizing if you can play the game within the law, this is what's otherwise known as political action committees. Being able to use the law to your own advantage. So at that point in time, I got, again, another lucky break. A professor of mine was trying to buy a house. And with that in mind, he was buying the house, but he didn't know how to do it. So he called me up and he said, can you help me? So I ended up going down to a place in Galesburg, Illinois. And as a result of that, I met another gentleman that said, you know what? I like you're a smart rascal. So you know what I'm going to do with you? I'm going to sell you a couple of houses for $100 because he realized I knew how to use the Community Reinvestment Act. At the time, they were not necessarily allowing. In this community, they didn't have any blacks that owned homes. So I knew about what the Community Reinvestment Act was all about. So as a result, I helped him buy his first house as a black man. And as a result, voila, that began my start.
That sounds like that was an interesting turn of events for you. They took a situation that they needed your help, and you ended up being the benefactor of some timely services that they needed taken down. So at what point in your career did you discover that you actually have a system for creating this blueprint? You have this thing called the TPS blueprint, and I'd love to spend a couple of minutes talking about that as well. At what point during your career did you say, hey, I have something that I got my hands on that I know would work for other people that are trying to build businesses also?
I actually started reading, there was a book by Reggie Lewis about, basically, I think the topic of it was, he was buying Beatrice, and the topic of it was doing what the white guys do better. And it was a leverage buyout concept. Along the way, there was also Donald Trump had the book about the deal making. So I started realizing, you know what? I just did a deal, and now all I got to do is just master this. And I just got to figure out what's important in a deal. So in negotiations, the key things are timing, precision and synchronicity. So then I applied this to even women. It's like, okay, if your timing is right, your precision is right, your synchronicity is right, you're going to get plenty of honeys. So all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, I'm mastering this art. And it was an art form because you can walk into a room and have the gift of gab. And I said to myself, I can sell venom to a snake, salt to Santa Claus, and, basically a frying pan to a slug. So I got this figured out. So all of a sudden, you start putting all the pieces together because it's just that. Everything comes down to those three ingredients. The wars were lost based upon timing, precision, and synchronicity. An assassin, in the book, you'll see an assassin's chart there I had. An assassin has to sit down and wait all night long to get his target. In a military battle, if you don't come with the right amount of things, everything's going to go wrong. When we look at something as simple as Russia, if Adolf Hitler had have not been smarter and been wiser, he would have taken Russia. But because of the fact his generals told him not to go into Russia, but he sent those soldiers in there without proper winter gear. And then in Northern Africa, the sandstorms got him bogged down. The whole world would be actually learning German right now if it were not for those mistakes.
Right. When you approach a deal and you approach it from the perspective of how you are and how you respond and the type of person that you are, do you feel like it's to your advantage? I mean, you're a straight shooter, so you tell it like it is. You don't sugarcoat it like somebody in the corporate world. I see it working to your advantage once you can get past the initial, who is this guy? He's got all this jewelry on, he's showing up at the meeting. I don't know if you're a suit wearing guy. I know I'm not. I show up at a meeting, I'm going to be in shorts and a t-shirt. They got what they got. Do you show up as you showed up for today, with jewelry, with your attitude, a little bit off kilter, a little bit, a little bit out of the norm? Does that work for you, or is that something that you have to overcome during that meeting to make the deal?
I call it the concept of Joan Schwarzkopf used to call it the shock and awe principle.
Yeah, exactly.
On the cover of my book, it says D man. Now, let me explain you what that means. He's the man.
The man.
Okay? The man. So I'm telling you before you even get there. I'm sending you a copy of the book before you even get there. So I'm telling you I'm the man. So if I'm the man, what else we going to go with that? Where else we got to go with that? You already know when you come in there, the guy is hungry, he's aggressive, he's arrogant, he's got the swag. So there we are. Now, once we get to know each other, we're all good. But in the beginning of it, you're just trying to figure out what pulse is he coming from.
Right.
And one thing of it is I'm approaching you as a friend. First thing I say out of my mouth is, my friend, how can I make this work for us? How can I make it work for us? Somebody's got to lose. So I believe in the 80, 20, 70, 30, 90, 10 plan. One of them is going to walk away from this negotiation with less. But we're going to walk away with at least being happy and hopefully being friends. So the bottom line of it is I'm in the mindset of, okay, you have a need, I have a need. I got to figure out what your want is. And as I always say it best, if you figure out the need, you utilize the greed. Very simple.
You mentioned something just a second ago, and I want to just talk about this for a sec, because I think it's either I misunderstood it or it's a concept that's a little different than as I approach every potential deal. I think you said that someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. Can't you have two winners in a deal?
No.
Okay. All right. Tell me about that. I'm going to be a contrarian here. I'm going to take the opposite side. I'm thinking, hey, look, I think you both can win and everybody walks away happy, which is ultimately what we're looking for anyway. But why does somebody have to win and somebody have to lose? Why can't everybody win?
Because you're not going to get all the points that you want, and I'm not going to get all the points that I need. So again, somebody won, somebody lost. Now the question of the hour is, how many points did you get and how many points did I lose? How many points did you lose and how many points did I gain? So it's like even a relationship. You're with a girl, right? Fabulous. She's fine as sexy as can be, but she's got an attitude. So you're saying to yourself, okay, I got arm candy, but I got arm candy with an attitude. So you got to walk around with her knowing full well that she's got an attitude. And everybody's going, oh man, you got the diamond. Yeah, but you got a diamond that's got a little problem, okay? On the other hand, you got a guy that he's the machismo guy, he's hot or whatever else, but he's looking in the mirror all the time. That's a losing situation. But you got to keep saying to yourself, this is what I want. So you got to figure out what you can tolerate, but it's still, you're going to lose on something. It's not going to be win-win across the board. You know, you gained some points, but you lost some points.
Where along the way did you, because again, I feel a little differently. I don't feel like like there's a definite right and a definite wrong. I wrote,
Mhm.
I wrote this book back in 2015. It's called Nice Guys Finish First. And one of the first in chapter one, I quoted Gary Shandling, who was a comedian who's no longer with us, but he said, if you don't think nice guys finish first, you don't know where the finish line is. And
Mhm.
my feeling is that a lot of people don't know where the finish line is. It sounds like my finish line is I'm not going to be satisfied until I don't even want the deal if you're not going to be happy in the end, because I don't feel like walking away from this without you having a proper mindset or a proper attitude. I feel like somebody wins, somebody loses, somebody's going to be sad at the end in that exchange. Is that okay with you? And if it is, it's totally fine. I'm just trying to understand how deals work with you.
I will tell you in the very beginning, we are not going to make this thing work to precision the way either one of us wants it. I'm telling you in the beginning. I'll give you a good transaction recently.
Yeah.
Recent transaction I had was that bottom line of it was I was buying a parcel of land. It was $40,000, 49,000 matter of fact. So I went into the deal saying to myself, let me figure out exactly where he's going to go with it. So I said, we're going to start at 30, right? We're starting at 30. Now I told the agent, the best thing he can do is to take a look at how I operate in previous deals and in transactions in the book. I came back at 35. He said, deal. You know why he said deal? Because he realized I don't him and haw around. I'm only going to do this one time and that's it.
Right.
So he realized from 49 to 35, but he got all of his money. Okay. It was a cash transaction. So to his perspective, the man doesn't play around, but he's looking at it like my property's been on the market for 100 and some days. Do I want to keep on dicking around? Do I want to make a deal?
I got it.
I wasn't dicking around with him. Done.
I got it. I got it. So his quote unquote unhappiness was the negotiation to 35 as opposed to 49. And ultimately he was happy because he closed the deal. You gave him cash. There was a number of things that you made him happy with, but I guess to a degree, you maybe we're just we're just mincing words here. I think that your person that's on the other side of the deal that's unhappy, I'm still feeling like he still walked away happy. He got a
Yeah.
deal out of this thing.
Yeah. Because nobody else is coming along.
Right. I got it. I got it. When did you realize that you were going to stay on this side of the law? And I don't mean to keep coming back
No,
to
no, it's good.
that, but I'm coming back to it because I hear a lot of I don't want to say street, but what I hear is your your philosophy oftentimes came from the motivation to want to eat. Now that you don't have the same struggles, do you find yourself having a challenge with staying motivated, or is something what motivates you now?
The same thing it did when I was thinking about street activity, or the same thing it did when I was about to hustle. I never stop hustling because I never think that I'm comfortable. Okay. You can be a millionaire, billionaire, but if you never get comfortable, you keep on grinding. And I use that example of the Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and Sears. Sears stopped hustling, and Jeff Bezos and Amazon, Mr. Bezos, ate their lunch.
Mm.
All Amazon is a organized electronic mail order service. But Sears didn't realize we should have bought him. The first thing I would have said when he came along, done, is over with. Because I think in the streets, I'm not going to let you come on my block and even get close to penetration, period. Because if you come on my block, that's a problem. Okay. So this is the same way I look at it from a business perspective. When you are incarcerated, that equals penetration because everything is penetrating your mind. So you can't function. So if I stay on this side of the law and I use the law to its advantage to the fullest extent, I don't have anything penetrating my mind that's negative. So I can stay focused on the grind. And that's the key. As long as you stay focused on that grind, you'll never get complacent. You'll never get to a point where you start thinking, wow, I'm going to be comfortable. No, you're never comfortable. I always stay in the mindset I'm never comfortable.
So you wrote a book called The TPS Blueprint. Is that the name of the book? Did I get that right?
Yeah, it's called Mastering the TPS Blueprint. Yeah.
Okay. Mastering the TPS Blueprint. I did not ask you this before I hit the record button because oftentimes I stay away from pitching on the podcast, and I don't want to pitch here, but I do want to make sure that we are aligned with what we want our listenership to accomplish by listening to the episode. Is ultimately the goal of you being on the show to help bring awareness to your book? Is it to bring awareness to your process and your system, your coaching program? Tell me what you want to share with our audience that we're not specifically saying as of yet.
I want people to understand that in the urban inner cities or even suburban areas to appreciate the fact that no matter where you came from and whatever you're going through, even if it's some kid that's an adoptee, some kid that's in a foster home, some woman that's going through an abusive relationship, or some man that's going through divorce or whatever else, you can come back. You can come back from those streets. You can come back from incarceration. You just have to think like the gorilla and understand that there's somebody out there that's been in your shoes and has experienced what you're experiencing. And that's why I say trauma to triumph. If you look on the cover of the book, it shows a man with a big ball and his chains around his leg, and he's trying to climb up the hill. And when he gets to the top of the hill, there's a light that comes on. And that's the thing. So I call myself the liberator. I'm not a motivator. I liberate your mind to the infinite possibilities of what it can achieve. So I just want to open their minds up to say, you don't have to buy my coaching, but read the book and realize I've been in your shoes. I know what it's like to go through things, and I know what it's like to avoid recidivism. That's a big thing. People keep going back to the same struggle, and it's insanity.
So Mastering the TPS Blueprint, Transforming Trauma into Triumph. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes. Darius Ross, Darius Demand Ross is the author of that of the book. He's been our guest on the podcast today. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a couple of questions just about your personal life now. Tell me where you are in your journey right now personally.
It is now I'm in the process of looking at overseas and looking at building complexes and developing more assets overseas and acquisitions of real estate. And also now I'm focused on business acquisitions, buying small and medium-sized businesses, because this is a simple plug, but it's interesting. There will be 10 million businesses in America that will go under because nobody's there to buy them. So the baby booming generation will be in a situation where they're at my age, 60 and over, and they're retiring and they're just closing these businesses down. So this is a good opportunity for entrepreneurs and or people that live in corporate America to own their own business and be successful. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
That's awesome. And I appreciate you sharing that. And again, this is a completely a no pitch podcast. I'm the one trying to push your book, and you didn't even mention your book. I mean, we mentioned the title of it, but we want everybody in our community get a little bit of a flavor for what Darius is all about. Check out his book. The link will be in the show notes. We'll also put a link to your website there as well. And also, Nice Guy Community. And Darius, hats off to you for this as well. Great Instagram channel. I've seen a number of posts and watching your activities on Instagram. A lot of little video shorts that are on there, video reels. So thank you for sharing all of that with our community as well.
It definitely has been a pleasure. I appreciate it so much.
Nice Guy Community, never underestimate the power of nice. Again, special thanks to Darius. All of his information, including access to his book and his website, will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Fill up your week with the Nice Guys. 5 episodes a week. Isn't that like some kind of a war crime? Why don't you just waterboard these poor people?